All right, we're going to have a lot more to say about that, about the angle coming up later in the show. But we have to begin with a remarkable new development indicating that the Justice Department may have overruled the FBI in the Michael Flynn case. We're joined by the reporter who broke this story just tonight, Washington Examiner's Byron York, and by his fellow Fox News contributor, Kim Strassel of the Wall Street Journal. Byron, let's start with you. I had heard rumblings about this last year, that Mike Flynn did not lie in questioning by the FBI. Remind us of how this all went down. It was very unusual how he came to be interviewed. Very unusual. Remember December of 2016, that's during the transition. Flynn was the next National Security Advisor. He was getting calls from all around the world. That's what happens when you're about to be the National Security Advisor. He had a couple of conversations with Sergei Kislyak, the Russian ambassador, and these were wiretapped because we wiretapped the Russian ambassador, which is perfectly reasonable. They talked about sanctions, and somehow the Obama Justice Department became very concerned about this. They convinced themselves that this might be a violation of the Logan Act. You've probably told your viewers about the Logan Act. 200 years old, never successfully prosecuted. They did try to charge two people in the 19th century, but it didn't work. So on this basis, this pretense, they then go to interview Michael Flynn on January 24th, fourth day on the job in the White House, right? And what I learned... Acting AG Sally Yates, who would then resign. She sends the FBI over to the White House. Exactly. He has no lawyer with him. For some reason, he agrees to be interviewed, but it must be random. Hey, I'm from the FBI. I'm here to talk to you. I'm at the White... What? That's just bizarre. So this becomes a huge issue. Congress wants to find out what's going on. In March, James Comey, then the FBI director, briefs Congress, and he said the FBI agents who interviewed Flynn did not think he lied to them. Something happened between then and December 1st when he pleaded guilty to lying in that interview. Kimberly, what's your gut here? Now, they were trying to squeeze Mike Flynn to get at Trump, to try to crack him, and then you'll crack the whole operation. But I had heard that from the beginning, that Mike Flynn didn't lie. He didn't think he'd done anything wrong when he talked to the ambassador.
When you look at Mike Flynn, you basically have two options for why he would have done this. One theory out there is that maybe Mueller had something worse on him, and so this was his way of getting out. The better theory, which has been out there, is that his son was also under investigation, and curiouser and curiouser, the headlines came out that his son was no longer going to be under investigation right about the time that Flynn accepted this plea deal. So the thought was that he was helping out his son. But look, for people out there who have worries about the Mueller probe and how legitimate it is and whether or not it has other ambitions, this is ground zero for them, because you end up taking the partisan accusations of a very partisan acting attorney general trying to gin up a charge on an act that's 200 years old, could never be enforceable in law, and manages as a result of this to drum a guy not only out of his job, but ultimately land him with a felony charge.
Byron, here's what it seems to be from the beginning. They needed to get into the Trump campaign. They needed to get into into one of the top aides to Trump, and they know how Trump reacts to this stuff. He gets his back up. He's like, I'm a target because you guys are mad that you lost this election, and then they're off to the races. But I think Sally Yates is really an important and overlooked person in all of this. Extremely important, and I believe she's only really spoken once about this. She testified in May to a Senate Judiciary Committee subcommittee, and she said that she went to the White House, right? So she goes, after she's interviewed Flynn, she goes to the White House, and the White House counsel says to her, well, okay, what if Flynn did lie to the vice president? What if one White House person lied to another? What's it to the Justice Department? And she said, oh, it's a very, very big deal because he might be vulnerable to blackmail. And
I don't even understand that calculus.
I didn't understand it either. And a lot of people on Capitol Hill didn't understand it either. All right, Kimberly Strassel, now we have to move on to Susan Rice, who makes yet another appearance in trying to save the Obama administration. At least that's what it looks like on the surface. We find out today in this new Graham memo that she sent an email to herself. We have a full screen of it. on Inauguration Day, saying the following: President Obama began the conversation by stressing his continued commitment to ensuring that every aspect of this issue is handled by the intelligence and law enforcement communities by the book. The president stressed that he's not asking about initiating or instructing anything from a law enforcement perspective. He reiterated that our law enforcement team needs to proceed as normally would by the book. That's about the January 5th meeting. Why would you be documenting a January 5th meeting on January 20th in an email to yourself? Is that a CYA deal?
It looks very CYA to me. Can you think of any reason why someone would do this? And by the way, just go back to Susan Rice. Remember, she's got a link to the Flynn issue as well, and that she was involved in unmasking him. And then ultimately, of course, that was illegally leaked to the press, his name. But look, on this particular email, it reminds me of this story. Back in 2003, Jay Rockefeller, the Senate Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, was briefed on wireless wiretapping. He didn't say anything about it at the time, but he wrote himself a letter and stuck it in a desk drawer, and then later, when there was controversy, he wielded it out to say, look, I never thought this was a good idea to begin with. So, look, I think what we have here, is Susan Rice putting down, I want everyone to know that this is exactly what happened in this meeting, just in case it turns out that someone starts asking later.
Yeah, Susan Benghazi Rice. Okay, that's all I need to say. And did she ever get immunity? Do we know if she got immunity? We're out of time, but did she get immunity? We don't know.
I don't know.
No, that's another question that we have to get answered, guys. And by the way, there's more kabuki theater from the Democrats, this time during Senate immigration debates going on now. And up next, we're going to examine how they're cynically using the poor dreamers for fear of politics.